Welcome to the third annual StartupColumbia Festival. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank you all for your attendance. This is a long day today, and so we expect the house to be filling up. Thank you all for coming early. My name is Chris McGarry. I'm a co-director of an initiative called Columbia Entrepreneurship, and we sit in the president's office, and we work very, very closely with many of the wonderful centers of excellence in entrepreneurship around the campus. And what does that look like? Well, you're in it. So we put together this conference in collaboration with two incredible student clubs. The Columbia Venture Competition will be giving away $250,000 later today, done in very close collaboration with SEPA and with the School of Engineering and with Columbia College. So this is the kind of thing that Columbia Entrepreneurship does. The festival is about community. So each year at this festival, we gather the community together in celebration. So let's celebrate. I think that's why we call it a festival. So have fun today. For most of us, when we think about entrepreneurship, we think about certain companies: Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, Twitter. We also think about the titans of industry who started from scratch to build a new economy and to drive the growth of many of the world's most valuable companies. We think of Steve Jobs. We think of Jeff Bezos, Ben Horowitz, Sheryl Sandberg, Sergey Brin, Mark Andreessen. What an exalted place that in our culture where we place these giants. Today we'll celebrate many Columbia entrepreneurs who I'd wager find no small amount of inspiration in many of those luminaries. But before they were household brands, these titans put their pants on one leg at a time. They all came very close to never having been heard of again. Their fortunes never realized, their impact never felt. Who did these icons turn to when prospects were uncertain and they doubted themselves as deeply as many of us doubt our own selves? Or where did they turn when they just wanted somebody to listen and to understand them? They turned to a man that didn't share the limelight with them. They turned to Bill Campbell. We lost Bill 10 days ago. Bill was a Columbia College alum. He was a football player. He was a coach. And he was many, many, many more things. He was there at the beginning of our small organization, Columbia Entrepreneurship. The impact of his loss was felt deeply among those titans and across the country. In fact, there are many technology luminaries who claim that his was the most influential single voice in the Valley, a voice that humbly and quietly and wisely whispered wisdom and encouragement. We're here today to celebrate and encourage a community of entrepreneurship. So let's do it the way Bill would have done it. He would have been here with encouragements and with frankness and, frankly, with some profanities. Today we're going to hear a little bit about robotics, and we're going to hear a little bit about virtual reality. And in fact, during lunch, we have some folks from Google who will be have the Google cardboards, and they'll be doing a demo right down here. We can only handle about 100 of you or so, so don't tell the other folks when they come in so you can have a place in line. We'll hear from the founders of Venmo and from Snapchat. As I mentioned, we'll be giving away $250,000 to the 15 winners of the Columbia Venture Competition. Today we're also going to hear from many of our sponsors like Temp CFO, Eisner Amper, SoFi. They'll be giving away valuable in-kind services in the weeks following our festival today. So if I may ask your permission now, this is the single opt-in opportunity. Look for those emails. Finally, the theme of this year's festival is unconventional entrepreneurship. We expect to be surprising you several times throughout the day. So Keith, can you fire up something unconventional?
Shostakovich is an extremely hard act to follow, especially a string quartet. Towering masterwork. My name is Sam Bodkin. I'm the founder and CEO of Group Muse. And I know Keith and Jocelyn and some of the other members of the quartet because they play at Group Muses a lot. Group Muse is a platform, an online platform, groupmuse.com, that connects classical musicians in the area to people who have living rooms in the area so that the community can organically generate its own chamber music house parties that we call Group Muses. And the idea behind a Group Muse is not merely to make classical music more accessible and to demystify it for the rising generation who's grown farther and farther away from this important monument to Western civilization, but also it's about creating plentiful opportunities for people to gather in the real world, to share something beautiful and profound and meaningful and enriching and to connect over that experience. So we've been called the Airbnb of classical music, and the way that it works is you log into groupmuse.com and you RSVP to any of the events that are happening in the area. All of the events are semi-public. Half of the folks are returning group musers, and half of the folks are people who were invited by the host, and that's how we grow. Every host presupposes a social scene, and so he or she invites all their friends, and it's a way to both make friends and experience art in an extremely affordable and convenient way. So to give you some of my background, I grew up in the suburbs around Boston, and, you know, I was well-adjusted and understimulated, like a lot of people in the suburbs. And I discovered classical music when I was 19 years old, and all of a sudden, this universe of depth and meaning revealed itself to me. And because we live in the age of digital music, I could just fill my brain with it all the time. You know, when I was brushing my teeth, it was Beethoven. When I was waiting in line at Starbucks, it was Mozart. And I became convinced that actually this sort of spiritual redemption that I believe this music can provide in a world that I think is in some ways conspicuously lacking in beauty might really be a solution to some of the ills of contemporary society. At the same time, it's often said that there are ever decreasing opportunities for people to connect in the real world. So I thought that we could basically kill two birds with one stone. And actually, when I was at Columbia is when I got this idea for Group Muse, probably in part inspired by the atmosphere. I personally tested out of Music Hum, which I suppose isn't too much of a surprise, but being surrounded by a group of people who were versed in the canon, I think, was definitely, you know, and I was also at the classical radio station, WKCR. So all of those sort of informed the germination process, and I graduated. I started Group Muse outside Boston, moved in with the folks, the classic entrepreneurs move. And at the very first Group Muse, I just had a friend host, and I brought a string quartet, and there were 50 people in the crowd. And I said, okay, here's the idea. We're going to save society through classical music in this web platform. Who's hosting the next one? At the time, there was no website. But I knew that at some point I'd find someone to build one. It turned out to be my best friend who I grew up with. But so 5 or 6 people in the crowd said, I want to host the next one. And so then in 2 weeks we had one, and then in 1 week we had one, and within 6 months we were having 4 a week in Boston, and now, 3 years later, we're having 30 a week nationwide, and in New York, we have, on average between 5 and 10 a week, and I encourage each and every one of you to come. It's really a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Bye.